New Hampshire voters turned out in record numbers, securing much expected wins for Joe Biden and Donald Trump, though Trump's Republican rival Nikki Haley surpassed expectations, cutting Trump's predicted lead nearly in half.
This race is far from over.
But does she really have a shot at the GOP nomination? I'm joined by GBH News politics reporter Adam Riley and Chris Galdieri, a politics professor at St. Anselm College in Manchester. Thank you both so much for being here. So what is your biggest takeaway from this year's New Hampshire primary, Chris?
A couple things. One is that it was the quietest primary I can remember. Fewer candidates, fewer events, fewer debates. Even in the final week, when there's usually a frenzy and an electricity in the air, Trump and Haley were just not hitting the state in the way that, John McCain did in 2000, Hillary Clinton did in 2008, even Mitt Romney did in 2012. The other thing that I take away from this primary is that while Trump won, and 54-43 is a clear and meaningful win, it's also something of an underperformance for someone who has approached this renomination campaign as if he were a de facto incumbent president seeking his party's nomination. If that was the number that came out of the Democratic primary, and if President Biden's challenger had not been an obscure backbench congressman, but someone like Gavin Newsom or Gretchen Whitmer, a young figure with clear national ambitions, I think we'd be talking about that primary very differently.
Do you feel that Trump has kind of fallen in line with your expectations of how his campaign would go so far?
I think there are a couple things different about this one. Trump has actually put together a fairly professional and normal campaign organization this time, in contrast to his 2016 operation, which was so chaotic, I was tempted to send them a voucher just to see what would happen. This time he's got a more disciplined campaign in terms of voter contact and that sort of stuff. But Trump himself, Trump the candidate, has really, I don't want to say gone off the rails necessarily, but look at his remarks last night. This is somebody who has won the primary, defeated somebody who was apparently on track to beat him a couple weeks ago, it seemed like. And instead he spends his entire time, just red-faced, huffing and puffing, angry, insulting. I've never quite seen anything like that from someone who's won an election before.
I mean, to Chris's point, when it comes to Trump's comportment, it seems like he's being fueled in this election cycle by a desire for vengeance, right? Like that's what's driving him. It's not just grievance, but a desire for revenge. He's told his voters that he'll avenge the slights that have allegedly been visited upon them, and that he will avenge himself against the, quote unquote, deep state, the swamp, Joe Biden's Justice Department, you name it. So I would agree that we haven't seen anything quite like that, where it's that palpable that a desire for vengeance is the animating force driving a presidential candidate. I can't think of another time that's happened. But I want to say I have a little bit of a different takeaway than Chris. And I know Chris is the political scientist, and I'm sort of a gadfly media type. But that respectable finish by Haley was powered by her support from unenrolled voters. She got, I think, 2-to-1 support from unenrolled voters, many of whom were probably Democratic leaners who decided they wanted to show up and vote against Trump. When it comes to the Republican Party, Trump, I think, won 3-to-1. So I personally would argue that it's time to put to rest the idea that there's a real meaningful constituency inside the Republican Party that doesn't want the party to be the party of Trump. I think there's a small minority, but I don't think they really matter anymore.
Yeah, despite what you've said about how this was a calm primary, we did see record turnout, right? And a huge faction of that were these independent voters who put in Haley just to push back against Trump. And the margin, I think, was a lot smaller than he had predicted. I wanted to get your reaction, Adam, to this clip of Trump threatening Nikki Haley that she'll be under investigation if she wins the nomination.
Just a little note to Nikki. She's not going to win. She's not going to win. But if she did, she would be under investigation by those people in 15 minutes. And I could tell you 5 reasons why already.
Is that somebody who is he threatened? Do you feel like he's reacting because he's threatened by her?
No, I don't think he. I don't think he probably feels particularly threatened right now, given the way the nomination fight is shaking up. I think he's someone who doesn't like to be opposed in any way, shape, or form. And the fact that Nikki Haley has the temerity to run against him, to criticize him, not as pointedly as she could, but she's still being critical of him, comparing him to Joe Biden when it comes to age, cognitive faculties that she perceives. I just think he brooks no dissent, and I think that's what we see. And he has this worldview, in addition, in which all actions are inherently political. I think what you see there is a reflection of how he would like to run the Justice Department. I don't think it's the way the Biden Justice Department works. It's not the way the DOJ has traditionally worked. There's been independence, but we have strong indications that if Trump wins the nomination and wins a second term, the DOJ may well function very differently.
Chris, what do you think about this New Hampshire primary? Obviously, Haley loses in New Hampshire, but by a smaller margin than, maybe a lot of people would have expected. What does that sort of tell us about what we can expect in South Carolina and in primaries coming forward?
I'm not sure how much it tells us, because New Hampshire is really something of an unusual state. We don't just have a high number of independents. We have a low number of, for instance, conservative evangelical Christians, which puts us in a very different place than states like Iowa and South Carolina. Our Republicans who are conservative are often more motivated by fiscal concerns than social issues. So they care more about, low taxes than same-sex marriage. They care more about small government than LGBTQ issues and so on. That is something that you're not going to find in very many states. You're particularly not going to find it in South Carolina. While there are, I don't think they have party registration in South Carolina, but you don't, I think, have the same sizable chunk of the electorate that takes a lot of pride in being independent, about not lining up with one party, with being willing to throw a spanner into the works if the right candidate comes along. I think it's going to be really tough for her to replicate what she did here elsewhere, and even replicating that elsewhere is not going to win her the nomination.
And Tori, I got to say, when I talked earlier about the fact that there's no appetite inside the GOP for an alternative to Trump, or no meaningful appetite, Chris, the observations that he just made, I think drive that home. Even in New Hampshire, a state which has this sort of heterodox brand of republicanism, this throwback brand of relatively moderate New England republicanism, even there he beat her 3-1. Among Republican voters.
And she put in all of her efforts into New Hampshire, way more than Iowa, right? And I think she was really campaigning for New Hampshire.
So I think when you go to a state like, as Chris said, South Carolina, or any other state with a more Trumpy Republican base, there's going to be even less interest in an alternative to him, the way he does business.
Ron DeSantis dropping out of the race is interesting to me, because he had really aligned himself so much with Trump, and then said, but I'm not facing these federal charges, and he might, this guy, if he's the nominee, he might be in jail. Basically, like, I can fulfill this thing that we all want as a party, and then dropping out and falling in line with Trump. Can you talk about the differences between Haley and Trump? Because they're running very kind of different races, right? It would be, I imagine, harder to see her dropping out and then endorsing Trump.
It would be, and yet...
It's possible. We may just see it. I don't know.
I mean, it's worth reminding everyone that she did serve as his ambassador to the United Nations, right? So it's not like she's a never Trumper. I would say, and I'd be interested in Chris's take on this as well, I would say she's running as a more moderate, reasonable, old-school Republican, fiscally conservative, socially conservative as well, but without the sense of sort of aggressive grievance and combativeness and chaos that has come to define Trump. I don't know if that jives with yours, Chris.
30 seconds, Chris, if you want to add to that.
Yeah. And I think Haley is very much of that breed of governors and Republicans from, the early teens, late aughts, who were perfectly conservative. They were willing to make noises in the direction of the Tea Party, but they would never say, I am from the Tea Party. I'm also struck by Haley's rhetoric on abortion. She is the only candidate in these debates who has said, actually, we need to not ban abortion nationwide. We need to figure out some sort of position. We need to reassure women they won't go to jail, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that also, both speaks to her appeal to more moderate Republicans and also shows the limits of her support.
Right. Adam Riley, Chris Galdieri, thank you both so much for being here. Thanks for your time.